Now, my brothers and sisters, we are into Daniel chapter 1, verse 3. Reading from the King James Bible first. And the king spake unto Aspenias, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes. Unquote. Comparing now, we're going to read from the English Standard Version. Quote, Then the king commanded Aspenias, his chief eunuch, to bring some of the people of Israel, both of the royal family and of the nobility. Unquote. And again, comparing this to the Young Literal Translation, quote, And the king saith to Aspenias, master of his eunuchs, to bring in out of the sons of Israel, even of the royal seed and of the chiefs. Unquote. Now, let's go ahead and see what we can get out of the Hebrew, parsing this out and seeing if there's anything we can get from the writer as far as the usage of anything here. Now, we'll start out. And the king spake. So let's go ahead and parse out this. It's a quell stem. So what does that mean? It's frequently used with a verb pattern that expresses a simple and casual action. So it's also written in an imperfect aspect, which expresses an action, process, or condition which is incomplete. So basically what we have is the king's just offhand saying to Aspenias. So he's talking to him, but it's offhand. Now, let's see what this Aspenias, let's see what the definition of this is. The meaning of his name is, I will make prominent the sprinkled. He was the chief eunuch of Nebuchadnezzar. Alright, let's go backwards. Now, eunuch, that means that he could not reproduce. That was important because he's around the queen and the descendants of Nebuchadnezzar's family. So the males, apparently the eunuchs, were made so they could not reproduce, sexually speaking. So they were safe to have around the royal family. Okay, so under Aspenias, the master of the eunuchs, so that means there are more of them, that he should bring. So let's parse out that Hebrew word, and that is written in the hyphal stem, which usually expresses a causative action, and it's in the infinitive aspect, which corresponds to an ing. So it's basically, you can put an ing at the end of a verb that he should bring in, basically. So it's a casual action. He should bring certain of the children of Israel. So let's look at this, certain of the children. Let's look at the definition of this. Okay, this is a masculine noun, and it can be translated son, children, old, first, man, young, youth, people. But this is translated most of the time as son, and secondary is children. But in this case, it seems to fit that it's children. It is talking about a literal or figurative, but in this case, a literal relationship. So it means plainly children. Certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes. Okay, now one thing I want to point out here is that we have a lot of people that are cross-referencing this verse to have meaning, and they imply a few things. They say that because the eunuch was told to bring out certain of the children of Israel, the king's seed and the princes, that the ones that he brought out to come before the Nebuchadnezzar, that they were made eunuchs, those that were chosen. I don't find any basis for this. It doesn't say that these people are going to be among the royal family. It means that they're going to stand before the king in his court. So I don't see any correlations between those that were chosen who are going to become eunuchs. Why would you want to be chosen? Why would you not want to go back to your normal life and have family? So I don't see any correlation between this. Some people are saying that Daniel and them were chosen. They became eunuchs. That's why you don't read about him being married or having children in Daniel's book. Well, there are certain things in a person's life, quite a few things actually, that we never hear about in Scripture about the person that's being involved in the writing, and we don't know anything about them. We don't know if they got up and cleaned their teeth often. We don't know if they lost any of their teeth. We don't know if they traveled to other cities for a big birthday party. We don't know nothing. What's important is given to us. What is not important is not given to us. We cannot infer that Daniel and his Meshach and Abednego and all them, that they were eunuchs. We can't infer that. Scripture doesn't say that. So I'm not going to say they were because I don't know. And neither does any of the experts. They're all doing hypothesis. They're guessing. So we're not doing that because it doesn't say it in Scripture, nor do we have any records of it. Now, we do have a record in the British Museum that was publicized in 1956, and it is a stone inscription, Babylonian, that does harmonize the events in the Bible that Nebuchadnezzar did, in fact, conquer Israel in 598 BC. Now, it's telling when it was conquered. The dating, we're using our calendars to try to get this dating. Remember, calendars did not go back the way that our dating does. These were done by moon cycles. So we're guessing, basically, when we go to date things. But it can put it in perspective because we're guessing when Jesus was born also. So when they're guessing that, they can continue to go backwards and put things in proportional perspective. So if we're saying that Jesus was born in 0 BC AD, then they're saying that Nebuchadnezzar conquered Israel in 598 BC. So we do have a record of when it was conquered. We do know that the Scripture is talking about this after the conquering in 598, because there was 3 times that Israel was run over by Nebuchadnezzar in just a matter of a few years, and Jehoiakim was finally taken off the throne at this point for his rebellion. So we have the king speaking to Aspenias, the master of the eunuchs, that he bring certain of the children of Israel. Now later on in the verses, we have Daniel identifying himself not as of the king's seed or the princes. He's identified himself as one of the children of Israel. Now, you have to remember that if there's anything false in a writing, and the Jews can figure out that the person writing this is lying, they'll destroy the paper skins that this is written on. So Daniel does not identify himself as the king's seed nor the princess. And if he's lying, then they can destroy this. They didn't accept his writing right off the bat at all because it talks about the Messiah and the second coming and all that. They didn't accept this. So Daniel does not put himself as in the king's seed, nor the princes, nor are we going to put him there, because he doesn't identify himself as such, so we're not going to place him there. So we do have him instructing the chief of the eunuchs to bring in young men. So the presupposition is that Daniel was a young man. Now, you're going to have some commentaries trying to put Daniel down as being 17, 18 years old. We're not going to say that because the Scripture doesn't say that. So that, again, is another guessing game that we're not playing here. What we're playing here is, what does Scripture show us? What does it tell us? Well, here's a couple things that Scripture does tell us in this about this passage. It correlates with what is found in 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 17 and 18. I'm going to read that. Quote, "Behold, the days come that..." Okay, reading 2 Kings 20, verse 17 and 18. Quote, "Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store unto this day shall be carried into Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon." Unquote. And then we have in Isaiah chapter 39, verse 7, quote, "And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon." Unquote. And then this is where a lot of references are being taken, because when you say that Daniel is of the royal seed, then of course we must go ahead and say that he became a eunuch. So we do not have any of this as being fact. So we're going to continue on. We're not calling Daniel a eunuch because he doesn't relate himself as from the king's seed and of the princes. If he did, then we can correlate himself as being a eunuch because of what Scripture says in 2 Kings and other places. So we're going to move forward now and see what commentaries have to say on this and what's noteworthy. Now, when I'm looking over the commentaries, the one thing that I'm not looking for is opinion, because opinion can be taken as fact. And how I know this is that when Calvin wrote his words on Daniel and on Nebuchadnezzar, he wrote that Nebuchadnezzar knew that the Jews were stiff-necked and obstinate people, and therefore he had to use sumptuous food to soften up his captives. This is being quoted in the last few years here by another person doing a commentary, and he's using Calvin and what he wrote about that as being factual. Well, we don't know this. It doesn't say it in Scripture. So Calvin is presupposing, he's guessing, he's adding to this. Sometimes commentaries are written by people who have an ego problem at certain points when they're writing this. And so if there's nothing said, they will make up things so they sound more of an expert. There's nothing here about this. So we don't have this kind of information. Therefore, when we go to do the commentary, we're only going to put in here what we have as factual. Now, the purpose of discovering the Scriptures is that we can look at Scriptures and exactly what is said and compare it with other Scriptures. No doing anything of guessing games. I'm reading John Gill's commentary, and he talks about, as he constructs his commentary, that when the King Nebuchadnezzar said, "Bring of the children of Israel into the royal family," and princes and that, he's correlating that the children of Israel that were brought forward were all royals. It doesn't say that at all. Now, we do know that Daniel himself does not identify himself as being of anything but the children of Israel. So we do know from Scripture that the ones that stood before King Nebuchadnezzar that were of the royal family and the princely seed will become eunuchs, because it says so in of the Scripture that we have read on this. But it doesn't say that he made eunuchs of the children of Israel. Now, if you have conquered a land and you want to make sure that there are no descendants, so that nobody will want you to rule their land because no one to come after you, one fast way to do this is make sure that the men cannot procreate. They cannot have children. Making them a eunuch takes care of the situation. But Daniel does not identify himself as one of them. So, being of the children of Israel, it doesn't say anything about him becoming a eunuch. So, we're not going to guess that he was. He doesn't say that he was. He does identify himself as being of the children of Judah in verse 6. So we do know that he comes from Israel. We do know that he's from the children of Judah. That's all we know. We don't know if he was married. We don't know if he had children. We don't know his exact age. We don't know anything more than that. He identifies himself as from the children of Judah. And that's as far as we're going to go on that. So that ends Daniel chapter 1, verse 3, discovering the scriptures. Remember, we're placing everything here for you so that you can make up your own mind from scripture and so that you can figure out what this all means. Nobody else has to tell you this. You can do it. We're giving you the tools to do so. We're pointing out things for you to make your decision. May God bless you as you richly go about your way studying the scriptures.